Hello friends, my name is Olivia. I make videos about books on the internet, and today's video is gonna be my favorite books. It's as simple as that. I realized recently that I have not done a video just telling you what my favorite books are, which seems kind of crazy because I am a booktuber, and I recently got this new bookshelf, as some of you can kind of tell, so I wanted to film something fun and exciting and enjoyable in front of it for the first video, and that's what this video is. I'm finally putting it all in one place, letting you know what my favorite books are. This is probably going to be a really long video, and I apologize, but I also don't, because I love these books so much and I can't wait to just talk about them. So without further ado, let's just jump into the video. So the first book I'm going to mention is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I think there's a very complicated message behind The Great Gatsby. I think you can enjoy the romance and the love and the beauty and the lavishness while still recognizing how frustratingly complex and flawed the characters are. But for all of that, what really blows me away about this book is just simply the way it's constructed and written. F. Scott Fitzgerald's prose is unlike anything I have ever read from any other author before, and so every time I dive into this book, no matter how many times I reread it, you are just washed over by the absolute beauty of the way that it's written. It completely sweeps you away. There are just so many moments and lines that are just so vivid and crystal clear in your head and just capture something about life, about existing, that you thought previously could not be put into words, and for that reason, this will always be one of my favorites. Something I find kind of cool, I guess, about coming up with this list is that a lot of these books that I count as my favorites I've read in recent years. A lot of them I actually read last year as well, which I think shows I'm getting better at picking books for myself and reading things that I love. And one of those books that I read last year for the first time and absolutely fell in love with is The Book Thief by Markus Zuzak. I actually read this for the first time last year, which is surprising considering how popular it is, but I, from the first page, just knew this book would sink its claws into me. I very much like flowery, poetic prose. It can sometimes be overdone, but when it's done right and when the prose is so rich throughout, that's the kind of book that I absolutely love, and Markus Zuzak does that flawlessly. This is a World War II historical novel that kind of follows our main character, Lisa, who lives in Germany with her foster parents who, during the war, take in a Jewish man and hide them in their basement. What Markus Zuzak does so brilliantly is that the narrator of this story is Death, and the voice that he gives to Death as this all-powerful, all-knowing being while also being kind of innocent and childlike in certain ways and perplexed and fascinated by the lives of humans just takes the emotional impact of this book to a whole other level. I do tend to love World War II historical novels, and this one just perfectly captures what I think this genre of novel does so well, which is to reveal the steps that we take in desperate situations for the ones that we love, to protect the ones that we love. I think it managed to take a very, very dark story and a dark period of history and show the potential and the capacity that people have for compassion and for caring for each other, which is an amazing message all around. A lot of the books on this list are kind of sad, depressing books. For whatever reason, I tend to like sad books. This is the one that actually is probably the happiest book, and that is The Storied Life of A.J. Fikry by Gabrielle Zevin. I just literally looked in the back because I was like, what's the main character's name again? And it's in the title. A.J. Fikry is in a really tough place right now. He owns a bookstore on a very small island, and he's just depressed. His wife has recently passed away. He has no one in his life. He feels very dark and gloomy all the time until one day something shows up on his front steps, a package of sorts that he decides to take in, and it absolutely changes his life. This is a kind of simple story in the sense that there isn't too many crazy stakes. The plot isn't twisting and turning and building to this giant climax, but it just shows this beautiful message about the potential we have to change our lives for the better when we allow people in, when we allow love and opportunity and chances into our life, and we take chances on things that could be amazing for us, even if they are scary. The prose is simple and kind of quirky in a really enjoyable way, and every time I look at this book, I just get warm feelings in my heart, and that is why it is a favorite. The next book on my list is another classic, and that is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. This book is so overdone in a sense. It has so much. It's got science fiction, it's got this gothic element to its prose and to its storytelling, it's got questions about religion and humanity and what it means to be alive, it's got tension, it's got murder and darkness. It has so much, and I love everything about it. The best part about this book is the creature himself, the monster himself, and watching him take control of this story and in his own words explain what it was like to be abandoned by his creator and then to exist in this world as an outsider, to learn what it means to be alive and to be human. Every time you read this book, there's just one more thing you can look at and draw upon and really think deeply about. It has so many messages and questions about life and humanity. It is just bursting at the seams with everything you could want in an exciting novel, and that is why every time I read it, I am just reminded once again why I love this book so much. In keeping with classics, the next book on my list is Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. This is a kind of bizarre, satirical World War II novel that follows our main character, Yossarian, who is a fighter pilot in World War II, and the Catch-22 for Yossarian is that he's deemed insane if he wants to continue flying these incredibly dangerous missions, but if he requests to no longer fly those missions, he is deemed sane for recognizing the danger of those missions and therefore is put on more missions. That just element, I think, really sets up how bizarre and satirical and funny and weird this book is. Along with Yossarian's story, we see so many other weird asides and stories and details about the other men in the camp with him, the other men in the army. I just fell in love with how stupidly satirical it is, how there are moments that would just make you laugh in disbelief, and there are moments when I had no idea what was really going on or what the author was trying to say, but I was just enjoying the ride anyway. The next book on this list is one that I've mentioned many times. It's been a favorite of mine since I started my channel, and that is Snow Falling in Cedars by David Guterson. This novel is set post-World War II in a small fishing village, and the crux of the action follows a trial that is going on. A Japanese man is on trial for the murder of a well-liked white man in the town. And so we are taken through that entire trial and all the details and the elements that go with it, and the way it's affecting the town. We are also taken back in time and we see the insights into the characters involved in this trial. This book is really heart-wrenching. It is so emotional. Each character that we explore has just these heartbreaking paths and stories of struggle and heartbreak. This novel just makes you feel so many things, but it gives you so many rich narratives along with that and so many characters that you feel for and you understand so deeply. And to have that all happen on the backdrop of this legal setting only ups the intensity. I'm so grateful that I read this book when I was younger because I think it shaped a lot of the way that I see the world today, and for that reason, I recommend it to every person that I know. Another recent favorite of mine that I read last year, it was my favorite book of 2017, is Homegoing by Yaa Gyasi. This book starts off with two dual perspectives of two half-sisters in Ghana who aren't aware of each other's existence. One half-sister is married off to a white colonizer who was colonizing Ghana at the time and lives in his castle with him and becomes his wife and bears him children. The other sister is taken as a slave by these white colonizers and is actually sent to live in these squalorous, terrible dungeons of that same castle until she is shipped off to America. And each chapter after that is another step in their descendants, their children, their grandchildren, their great-great-grandchildren, all the way to 2017. What is so amazing about this book is that every single chapter could be a novel on its own that I would read and would love. In just 30 pages, this author manages to create such compelling characters, such compelling stories that you just feel for these characters so much. They become so real to you in this very short period of time. It has this amazing message about the way that trauma is carried down generations, the way that colonization and slavery is still having its own reverberations in the world today. And along with that intense message, you just get to enjoy really beautiful prose at the same time. There's elements of mysticism and magic and love and family all throughout every story. There is just so much you can pull apart about this book that I think I want it to be required reading. I hope that when I'm older, this is a book that we are teaching in school because there is so much you can get out of it. The next book that is another one of my favorites, another favorite that I first discovered last year, is Wolf in White Van by John Darnielle. I hope I'm saying that right. I never really know. He is one of my favorite authors and favorite musicians. He is the man behind the band The Mountain Goats. I just think that he can craft stories like no one else can. This story follows our main character, Sean, who when we start the novel, we don't know a lot about him, but we know that he suffered some sort of disfiguring accident in his childhood that has disfigured his face and made him kind of self-isolate himself. And we know that he runs kind of a choose-your-own-adventure game through the mail. And we know as the novel starts as well that two teenagers who are playing his game, something really tragic has happened to them and Sean is being implicated somehow. So you have this really cool plot that leaves you hanging every single chapter where you're like, okay, I want to know more. I want to know what happened to Sean in his childhood. I want to know what's going to happen in this trial. There's that rising action. And then along with that, we just get to learn a lot about who Sean is as a person, what led him to this place, the accident he had as a child. And it just explores loneliness and isolation in such a heart-wrenching but poignant way. It's just the perfect picture of loneliness that I think an author can ever write, and for that reason it is just so touching. So those were a bunch of my favorites. Now we're moving on to the last 3 books on my list that stand above them all, that have touched me in ways that I can't even completely comprehend, and will be my favorites until the end of time. So not to overhype them, but these are the 3 books that fit that qualification. The first book is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This is a retelling of the Iliad by Homer, but it follows it from the perspective of Patroclus, who is Achilles' best friend and his companion in childhood and into adulthood. And Madeline Miller makes the kind of romantic relationship that many scholars have read subtextually into the Iliad. She makes it overt and makes it the focus of this kind of novel. You get to follow Patroclus and Achilles on their own separate journeys from when they are young children all the way up to adulthood. You see them through adolescence, through falling in love, and through going to war. And so we get to follow these characters through this incredibly intense story arc. One of my favorite parts about this is just the voice of Patroclus, who is our narrator. There's something so quiet and intense and thoughtful and introspective about him that I don't think we see in a lot of narrators in any of the works of literature, and I just found myself being so touched by him, relating to him so much, really finding such kinship with this character that was created. Of course, one of the most amazing parts about this book is the romantic relationship that is depicted between Achilles and Patroclus. We get to see their love start in this beautiful, innocent space of childhood, which is just so touching and invigorating and exhilarating to read. And then we get to follow them through all the intense things that follow in their life, and we see how their love is challenged by these perspectives and these situations. The prose is everything I could want out of prose. So poetic and beautiful while still being able to create this very intense narrative of war. I cry throughout this entire book. Just every line and chapter touches something so deeply in me that I can't even completely explain to anyone else. The next book series should come as no surprise to literally anyone, and that is the Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling. I was first introduced to Harry Potter when I was about 5. It has left a mark on my childhood that I will always appreciate. But I reread these books constantly, and it's such a joy and a pleasure that every time I reread them, they still affect me and touch me as an adult. They're not just books that I reread for sentimentality, but don't have any impact on me anymore. As I read them as an adult, there are new lessons and new messages and new meanings that reveal themselves to me as I'm looking at them with a new eye. Every time I read it, I remember the moments that touched me the most as a kid, and now I can compare those to the moments that stand out to me more as an adult. The prose still, I think, is beautiful and whimsical and creative. I am still in awe of this world that J.K. Rowling has created that truly becomes like a home for people who have read Harry Potter throughout their life. When I read it, I feel so comforted, I feel so welcome, I feel like I'm a part of this story as much as it is a part of me. And I'm so grateful for that. I just can't even put into words. I think about this all the time, the fact that I was able to grow up in this Harry Potter generation and my childhood was able to be shaped by Harry Potter, and I have this for the rest of my life, these memories and these stories and these characters. I'm gonna get like emotional talking about it, but I truly feel so blessed to have this in my life, and I know that I'll be rereading it till the day I die. I'll read it to my kids and my grandkids. I'll be 45 years old. I'll be looking for a book to read, and I'll be like, you know what? Let me reread Harry Potter again, because I know I will love it again. And the last books on this list, the last books in my top favorites, are again a recent read. I only read the first book in this series for the first time last year, and I finished this series earlier this year. And normally I wait to kind of see how books impact me before I claim them as favorites. But this series, I truly I haven't felt this way about a book series, or books really, since Harry Potter. That's an easy kind of qualifier to throw out there. People always compare things to Harry Potter, kind of show their impact. I mean that very truly and deeply, that these books have done something to me, changed me in ways that I am still understanding. And that is the Raven Cycle series by Maggie Stiefvater. I recently reread this and annotated it. There'll be a video up soon on my channel about how I do my annotations. Anyway, we have Blue Sargent, who was raised by psychics. Her mom and her aunts and her cousins are all psychics, and they've told her entire life that if she kisses her true love, he will die. And then we have this group of boys, Richard Gansey, Ronan Lynch, and Adam Parrish, and Noah Cherney, who are searching for the lost body of a dead Welsh king known as Glendower. And Gansey's the one who's really spearhunting this journey, and he believes that if he finds this body, they will be granted one wish. And Blue and these Raven boys kind of come together and fall into each other's lives and pursue this quest to find Glendower, and as they do this, the magic of the world they live in becomes so much more overt. Each of them becomes roped up in this story in really intense ways they couldn't expect. I don't even really know what to say about this book. I feel like I'm gonna sound like a drama queen trying to talk about how much I love it, so I don't want to ramble too much. I don't want to say a lot about this book, honestly, because I'm not really trying to recommend it to anyone, even though I think everyone should read it. It's something that is so special to me that I don't really care what anyone else thinks, because it's already had its own massive impact on me and just is so precious to me. I'm so rambling right now, but I think what really hits me so much about this book is just the depth of the characters. It's so easy to say, like, oh, these characters feel so real, and I've said that about other books in this list as well, but this truly is a book where these characters feel like they are a part of my life. Like, I know them in some personal way, as silly as that seems, and being able to fall in love with someone that seems so real and watch them go through these 4 books and go through this journey is just... I love these characters. I love who they are as people. I love their flaws and their complications. I love the journey they go on. I love the magic. I love the message. I love the growth. I'm not gonna, you know what? I'm not gonna say anything more about it. I don't have to prove myself to anyone, okay? This is my video. This is my favorite book of all time. End of story. You wanna know, now you know. Maybe you didn't wanna know. Maybe you never wanted to see this video, but now you know. I'm sorry. I've been talking for like an hour straight. So those are my favorite books. That is what it comes down to. These are the books that have shaped me, made me who I am as a reader, and are so incredibly special to me. If you'd love to talk about any of these books, feel free to do so down below, or just tell me what your favorite books are, because I would really, really like to know. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll talk to you soon with another video.